Hey guys, it's RodimusPrimal. I am back with another video, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my review for the Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy's Earthrise, Skywarp, and Thundercracker. Now, the thing about this particular toy is that this particular pack is a Target exclusive, and because of that, not every single store is getting their hands on them. My local stores never stock them, and some stores have a massive amount of stock. So a lot of people were reaching out, trying to get their hands on it. Fortunately, it was Don Morin, who is one of my patrons, who was able to send this to me. And you can see this nice box art of them in vehicle mode. They, of course, are the Seeker jets, the old F-15. And I am going to review them with Earthrise Starscream, so that I have at least the initial three complete. And I am looking forward to opening them up and seeing how good they are, if they are worth your purchase. So, of course, without further ado, let's sit back, relax, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let's transform and roll out. Consider supporting the channel on Patreon, becoming a channel member, or purchasing some merch in my Teespring store today. Okay, so here we have the Earthrise Seekers, and you can see they are really awesome looking toys. We're going to get a closer look here at Thundercracker, at the awesome detailing that he has. It is a really fantastic looking toy. It is a big time update to the Classics mold, which came out, I think it's like at least like around 10, almost 15 years ago. It was like 14 years ago that the the Classics Starscream mold first came out. And here we have Skywarp. And if you guys saw my last video, I had complained about Skywarp. First of all, if you take a closer look at his face, you can see what they decided to do and actually give him an open mouth. I think what they were trying to do was that he was basically like screaming as he's shooting at you, you know, kind of thing, which is really weird for the character. That wasn't really something that Skywarp was known for. He was a practical joker, but, you know, Thundercracker would be the one, you know, I can kind of see, you know, maybe if I switched their heads, you know, but it's really not something that I'm a big fan of. Now, the one problem I do have with this particular toy is the fact that the wing on Skywarp pops off. It is something that I did complain about in my last video, and I have a potential fix, which I will get into after I review these guys. I wanted to show you a little bit about the detailing on the toy if you're not familiar with the Earthrise Seeker mold. Now, it is very posable. You can turn, you know, obviously the bicep, you can turn it. It does have a bicep swivel. It doesn't have wrist articulation, but it does move up and down, and that actually is part of the transformation. You can move the legs up and down. The one thing is that you can probably see is that it doesn't stay connected. That is an issue with the Earthrise Seeker mold in particular, because it is part of the transformation. But the thing is that it's really not that big of a deal unless it's like, you know, you're trying to get him into a pose and obviously like it pops open. Instead of having waist articulation, they decided to have this skirt. And I guess it has to do with the fact that the way that things separate. And one thing that somebody pointed out to me that they didn't care for was the fact that the inside of the side here is a gaping hole, which it's not really that big of a deal in robot mode because the cockpit does fill that gap, but in vehicle mode, it is very, very noticeable. And Skywarp is just as posable, at least the one that I have here. The joints are very tight. They do have ankle tilt as well as, you know, up and down, and of course it does have that problem with the knee. The one thing that was added to this mold that was different from the original Classics mold, which I will show you guys, is the fact that the wings can tilt back and forth. That was something that was added. And the other thing was, in addition to the head being, you know, articulated, you can move the cockpit is actually attached in the back. It's not the original Classics mold actually attached it to the back of the head, and I'll show you what I mean, you know, in about a moment. But these toys are really, really nice. I'm actually impressed with the amount of detailing they were able to put into it. You know, and just to show you how awesome they look together, here they are together with Starscream. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, if you're gonna get Starscream, you want Thundercracker and Skywarp. And if you just get Thundercracker and Skywarp, you're gonna want to get Starscream because you want that complete look and as far as the mold is concerned. In addition to Starscream, of course, I have Megatron, which of course you guys already know that I had customized him, but on top of that, of the paint that I used, I also added some Toy Hacks labels. I actually used the Netflix set in order to give him a more chromed looking chest so that the leader of the Decepticons can lead his 3 Seekers into battle, and of course transforming into his gun mode, which comes with the Centaurian drone. I do have that gun. But one of the comparisons I think you guys are going to want to see is how they stack up against previous versions of the character. So here is the G1 Thundercracker and G1 Skywarp, and you can see the colors on the new Skywarp is a much deeper purple than the lighter purple that was on the G1 toy. Of course, these are the reissues that came out around 20 years ago, and they were well worth it, in my opinion. And to see the size comparison as well, here is the Henkei Seekers. Basically, it was the Classics mold that Takara released in more cartoon-accurate colors. You know, with a lot of extra paint detailing. And Thundercracker, if you guys remember back in the day when Thundercracker, well, actually when this Classics molds first came out, they did Starscream, and then Skywarp came in a 2-pack with Ultra Magnus, which was basically just Classics Optimus Prime painted white. And then there was no Thundercracker. And it was like a good 3 or 4 years before Thundercracker finally got released. But in the meantime, Takara graced us with cartoon-accurate redecos of that mold. And it was a 3-pack of all 3, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. And I had gotten my hands on it. But the thing was that being that they were classic scale, they were much smaller. And these molds were the same designer is who designed the Earthrise molds. And the one thing that I'm so impressed about is the fact that the null ray cannons on the arms of the Earthrise Seekers are much better than the Classics mold, because the Classics mold were basically large missile launchers, and the wings got in the way, and the cockpit itself, like when it tilts on the back, it's actually connected to the back of the head. And that is where the improvements that they have made to the Earthrise mold in comparison to the original Classics. But overall, I mean, I've got to say, like, in comparing the two molds together, I really do appreciate the amount of detail that they have done to take these molds and make them better and upscaled. Now, I'm sure a lot of people probably want to see Hotlink in particular, as far as a comparison is concerned, comparing the Siege mold to the Earthrise Seekers, because there are some subtle differences. Obviously, the Earthrise Seeker does not have waist articulation, which the Siege mold does, and there is a little bit more articulations in certain places, but of course a lot of people wanted that Earth mode for the Seekers themselves, and I like the idea of having random Seekers have Cybertronian modes, while the Earth Seekers that appeared in the cartoon have their Earth modes. That's just kind of like my own personal preference. And so I do have Hotlink, and I also have the Rainmaker Seekers, and I'm probably looking for Red Wing to make a Destron Sentai Sika Ranger team. That's kind of the whole idea behind that, which is kind of like one of those fun things. And one of the cool things about Hotlink in particular is that he does come with blast effects for the flamethrowers, and they are compatible with the Earthrise Seekers as well, so you can have the blast effects on to give along that idea that they are firing on Autobots as much as they want to. Alright, so let's get into transformation here. I'm going to transform Thundercracker for you on camera here and kind of give you the rundown of how it's done, and then I'm going to go quickly with Skywarp. Now, the first thing, of course, you're going to do is you're going to take off the arm cannons. The first thing I always do is I take them off and I put them on the back of the wings, since that is where they're going to end up in jet mode. And the next thing you're going to do is you're actually going to open up the arms here, and what you're going to do then is you're going to slide the piece in, and if you notice that piece that's sticking out, it actually goes into the hole where the fist goes, so you have to remove the fist. And I'm doing this slowly on this arm so you can kind of have an understanding about what I'm doing, is you kind of have to shimmy it your way into it, and so that the blue piece is sticking out there. The Starscream toy, for whatever reason, it's something I didn't pick up on as I was doing it, even though I actually am doing it whenever I transform Starscream. But on Thundercracker, it's much more pronounced. And we're going to do the same thing on the other arm. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the cockpit, bring it up and over, and the one problem that a lot of people have been having is that there's going to be some paint scraping from these hooks that kind of like keep the back of the jet mode in, his back in place. And it's just because it's kind of a friction point. And I know some people have actually cut the plastic off here in order to make that a little bit more flush and makes it easier to open this up. And then we're going to take the cockpit, going to turn it around, and for whatever reason, the copy on my Thundercracker and Skywarp are kind of loose. They're not so loose on my, on Starscream, but for whatever reason, it's very loose there. And then these are going to fold in, and then we're going to bring it down. The last step that you do is the wings. So you want to do the legs first, next, and we're going to take the legs here, open up the tail fins, and we'll do the other side. And then we open up the legs, open up that little skirt there, and just kind of slide the whole assembly down, bring the front parts jet there down. And then you have the wonderful issue with the wings. It's not really an issue. What happens is it's supposed to like go up and over the little knob there, and it kind of gets stuck. And since my Skywarp doesn't have the wing issue, but my Thundercracker doesn't have the wing issue, but Skywarp does, the transformation is very, very, very tight on the wings. But once it's on there, there you go. You have a jet mode, and he is just phenomenal looking. I think this is such an improvement over previous versions of Thundercracker, especially his classics mold in a lot of ways. The only thing I do wish is that he did have a little bit of detailing on the tail fins, which I'm sure that Toy Hacks is probably going to go crazy and start making some Seeker label sets for Thundercracker. So let's get Skywarp transformed while we speak. And there we have Skywarp in his jet mode, and you can see how much detailing is on him. I do like a little bit more plain aesthetic to him. I do wish, though, that both of them had a little bit brighter Decepticon symbols. Maybe if it was like outlined in silver a little bit more to kind of make it a little bit more pronounced. And I'm kind of missing the toy detail on the tail fins, but again, that is, of course, that is something that you may want to do if you get some Toy Hacks labels. Now, comparing. All right, so bringing in some jets in for comparison. I'm going to do these without the landing gear, just simply because the landing gear is quite different. If we were to compare, here is G1 Thundercracker next to Earthrise Thundercracker, and you can see their jet modes are very similar in size. And here is Earthrise Skywarp and G1 Skywarp. And comparing once again Thundercracker from his Earthrise to his Henkei mold to see the difference in color with that. And you can see what I'm talking about with the stripe on the tail fin. And same thing with Skywarp. Here is Skywarp along with the Henkei version, and of course there is the painted tail fin on that one. And for another comparison, here is Earthrise, Thundercracker, and Ion Storm in his Tetrajet mode, along with Earthrise Skywarp with Hotlink in his Tetrajet mode. And one final comparison, here is all three of the Earthrise Seekers with Megatron riding on top. Now, something I do want to take note of is the fact that since he is a War for Cybertron toy, he does have, they all have the ports on them. And and Non-F has actually come out with something that you can attach to the wing, which is our missiles. So if you wanted to, you could take the cannons and place them on the side here, and then place another weapon on the wing, and that would give a better profile, especially if you get the missile, the missiles that Non-F makes, to give you that wonderful look of a fully loaded and armored F-15 jet. And because the F-15 was an impressive jet, no matter what way you look at it. Of course, it's been updated with the F-22, and I'm not really a big, military jet person, but I am familiar enough with the F-15 to know that it was an awesome looking vehicle, or an awesome looking jet. The only thing that stinks about the Earthrise mold is that it does not have a landing gear, which it is a fault with the fact that they decided to make the landing gear this part right here on the Classics mold, and instead of doing that, they gave us a much better looking chest, but they kind of forgot to give us something that kind of goes out to give us a landing gear mode. But I'm going to get these guys back in robot mode, and then I'm going to show you guys a quick tip to as far as what could be a possible fix for the quality control on this mold. Now, overall, I really, really enjoy these figures. I think the mold is actually really good. It just has a few flaws. Obviously, not having the waist articulation and wrist articulation is a negative to some, but it doesn't really bother me that much. A lot of people have been having their issue with the wings on Thundercracker. My issue is on Skywarp. I don't like Skywarp's face, but that is my own personal, problem with it. But I'm going to take the wing off here. I'm going to get a close-up of the wing here, and just so you can kind of see, there is a little, notch here on this part of the wing that you can kind of make out. It's kind of like a dipped groove. And if your Thundercracker does not have that little dip on the wing and the wing is falling off, that is the actual cause and root of the problem. If I bring out my Skywarp here and you take a look at the wing that is the problem, there it is, and you can kind of see it, it's actually an extra piece of plastic that is sticking up a little bit. And I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to scrape this part out. And by doing so, then the wing itself will be able to insert without an issue. What some people have been doing is that, and a lot of people have been leaving comments, is that they put a little bit of glue or something along those lines, like paint or something, on the knob here, like just the top part, to make it thicker, so that when it goes into the hole, it kind of stays a little bit more secure. But that's not the root cause of the problem. The actual root cause is in the little bit of piece of plastic that was, when they made it, seemed to have either was supposed to have been cut or was something that when maybe the machine was holding it as it was being made or something, that like it made that little extra piece of plastic, and that is the root cause of this. So we're going to see if if cutting it out actually fixes the problem. So let's take a look. Okay, so I think we're just about ready. You can kind of see the cuts that I made into this part of the wing. And now we're going to try and see how it inserts, and it stays on pretty well. It doesn't fall off anymore when I just do this. So I'm really kind of going at it to try and push it off, but it does go on a little bit better. The fix does work. You may still want to put a piece of cardboard or piece of paper to try and widen the gap in between the connector port right there. But if you do so, it will help keep the wing connected. But you can see now by me just making that one plastic cut with an X-Acto knife, it fixed the wing problem somewhat, at least a lot better than initially. And again, my final thoughts are, I think it's still a fantastic mold if you can get your hands on either the, Starscream, who is sold separately. Thundercracker and Skywarp are Target exclusives, at least as far as the US is concerned. And on top of that, Ramjet and Dirge, if you can get them, they are Amazon exclusives, and Thrust is going to be a Target exclusive as well. So hopefully everybody can get their hands on them, but I still think they're awesome toys all around. I really, really enjoy the mold now. A lot better now that I fixed the wing, at least in that respect. The wing problem is the main problem that a lot of people are having, and at least I hope that my fix fixes the problem for a lot of people. But I want to know what you guys think. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe. Check out my other videos as well. I have more videos, toy reviews, Transformers discussions, and Transformers news coming down the pipeline, so stay tuned for all that. And as always, guys, until next time, till all are one.